Hi there guys, and welcome to Jonesys' review of Leeds United's 2013-2014 season. So I'm going to talk a little bit about everything that's gone on this season, and also going to include a few clips from my vlogs over the season, just to show how things have progressed or not progressed over the season. So I hope you enjoy it. So starting back in August, there was a pretty decent atmosphere and sort of a positive vibe around the place. Everyone was very happy with McDermott being the manager. Things seemed to be okay off the pitch at that point. People seemed fairly happy with GFH. They'd done the whole let the past be the past, let's be United campaign thing, and they'd done a few incentives here and there, and it was getting a few fans back in, and there was just a more togetherness feel about the club. Can't pinpoint why exactly, but it just there was just a good feeling around the place during pre-season. I remember going to the Farsley game, and it was fantastic weather that day. It's always a fun day out to Farsley, and about 3,500 Leeds fans, all together, just getting drunk basically. But just even then, there was just something about the atmosphere, and everyone was just looking forward to the season ahead. And we just thought, maybe this is the season where things are going to change. And it was strange because, it hadn't been the most sort of, it hadn't been a very prolific kind of transfer window. There hadn't been any big, signings as such. Not big names anyway. Obviously, Matt Smith from Oldham. Obviously, people knew from his FA Cup exploits with Oldham. Scoring against Everton and Liverpool and that. But apart from that, it was pretty much an unknown player. And until recently, he'd been non-league and everything. There was also Noel Hunt from Reading, who we knew that he'd done a job at Reading, but he wasn't exactly a prolific goal scorer anymore. It's a free transfer. And I get people. I was fairly happy with it. I thought he'd make a decent squad player, but it wasn't another big name. I suppose the biggest transfer was obviously the Luke Murphy one. What with it being £1 million, the fact that we'd sort of nabbed him off Blackburn Rovers at the last minute, and he was meant to be sort of the next big upcoming star. That had come through the Crew youth academy and everything. So, people said he was way too good for League One, so we were expecting, big things from him in midfield. And, there were one or two other little things, and Scott Wootton obviously came a little bit later after a few games into the season. So, there was nothing there to make everyone, I don't know, there wasn't that big signing there that, you always kind of look for in the transfer window. But the big plus was obviously Sam Byron was going to be coming back soon from his injury of last season. Obviously looking forward to McCormack, hoping he was going to have a big season. There were players like Rudy Austin we were hoping were going to step up a little bit more. So like I say, people were feeling good, and people were positive about the season ahead. So we go to the first match against Brighton. It was on my birthday. It was fantastic weather. Biggest crowd we had at Ellen Road for quite a long time. I think it was about 35,000 there. And to get the win like that, and especially in that way and that style, it couldn't have been a more perfect start to the season, really. Brighton were one of those teams that were looking to push on that season. They had a new manager. They had a pretty decent team, and it was a scrappy match. Both teams were sort of had the chances. There wasn't an awful lot of skill on show, but we kept on going, and we scrapped that result out. And like I say, there was no better way to start the season than that. Obviously, Murphy getting that goal in that way. again, it just put more pressure on him. You know, we're expecting big things from him, that £1 million price tag. Getting a goal like that, he'd look pretty solid and decent in that midfield. So, you know, we were looking good. Went on to Capital One Cup, got a win against Chesterfield, again 2-1, very scrappy, not a great performance, and then went on to draw 0-0 with Leicester and 1-1 with Sheffield Wednesday. So it was, you know, we didn't lose in that sort, you know, in those first couple of games, and we were sort of grinding the results out, which we hadn't been doing the previous season. You know, the Leicester game and the Sheffield Wednesday game. You know, everyone was saying it was, you know, under Warnock, and with how things were last season, we'd probably gone on to lose those games. So to get a 0-0 draw against Leicester, away at Leicester, you know, a team that everyone thought again were going to be up there that season, was pretty decent. The 1-1 against Sheffield Wednesday was disappointing, and was maybe a game we should have won. But we did see what went on to be goal of the season from Ross McCormack, and you know, at least we'd seen from those first couple of games that Ross was on form. You know, getting in the goals very early on, and again, you know, there was nothing to show what was going to happen during the season. You know, people were still trying to keep positive about things. You know, we hadn't been winning games comfortably. You know, the opposition were getting goals against us, so there was that little niggling thing in the back of everyone's mind that was a little bit worrying, but in general it was still going well. Went on to win at Ipswich, which I don't think we'd done in God knows how long. I think it was maybe 10 or 11 years or something. So, you know, it was breaking one of those kind of hoodoo things, you know, beating a bogey side at their ground. And again, you know, we went behind, and we came back to win. You know, Luke Varney scored a brilliant goal from what I remember, and Ross got his goal from about 25 yards out. I think he got a slight deflection on it, but I remember watching that and thinking, you know, this is, although again, you know, it wasn't a comfortable win. And we certainly didn't outplay Ipswich, but it was just one of those games that we were scrapping away at, and we got that result. And it was that was making a little bit of a difference to what we've been used to recently. So again, McCormack getting the goal, he was clearly on form, and he looked like he was really enjoying himself and working well within the team. Again, like I say, you know, it wasn't a team with any big names in it, and there was no fantastic sort of skill on show, I suppose. But everyone just seemed together, and the team seemed very tight knit. You know, always sort of celebrating with the fans, and after the game, everyone going over to the fans, who again, you know, were turning up in numbers. We were selling out all our away allocations, and you know, again, things were looking good. We'd had you know, another win in the Capital One Cup away at Donny. That was a 3-1 result. Again, things were looking good there. Back in the league, we lost 1-0 at home to QPR, our first loss of the season, and it was one of those where we deserved more. I'm not saying we maybe deserved the win out of that game, but at least a draw. Again, you know, we were playing against a side with, you know, so much money in that side, and so many big name players there. Obviously, Redknapp in charge. And they were a team that were clearly looking for promotion. So to just lose out 1-0 at Ellen Road in a game that we should have done more in was a bit disappointing. But again, people were still looking positively. And then we went on and got a battling 1-0 win away at Bolton. well, we had, what was it, about 6,000 fans there, I think, 7,000. You know, completely filling that away end at Bolton. It was a game that I wish I could have been at, because it looked fantastic. Seeing all the pictures of that full away end at Bolton. You know, it's a great ground to create a great atmosphere at, and the fans certainly did that on that day. But then things started to turn a bit. Then you know, we had the 1-0 defeat down at Reading. You know, it was a game where, again, we probably did deserve at least a draw out of that game, but it was really poor. The side just didn't turn up at all, and there was no cutting edge going forward. And I think that's when it started to just click in people's minds that we were actually struggling quite a lot, sort of going forward, and there was no real creativity in the squad. And it was something that was really sort of going to come along and haunt us. You know, going away from Reading, losing that last second goal. I think it just, whether it turned something in the players, in their mindsets or something, I don't know. But from there on, things just started to, you know, the wheels kind of came off the track, I suppose. You know, we went on to lose 2-1 at home to Burnley, which again, very disappointing. Burnley, a very good side, and they fully deserved it, but again, a poor performance from us, and you know, that led to the 2-0 away at Newcastle.
Everywhere we're gonna make it, we will be late. Marching out together, we're gonna say it away. Marching out together, we're gonna say it away.
You know, obviously we weren't expected to win that game. It was, you know, it was such a big game. I mean, it was one of my best away days that I've had. You know, seven or 8,000 Leeds fans that night. Oh no, was it 7? Yeah, about 7,000 away fans that night. And it was just one of those games where you didn't stop singing for the whole 90 minutes. You know, no matter what was going on the pitch. And I mean, it was a fairly battling performance. You know, we definitely sort of kept in there, but Newcastle just, it was a very easy game for them. You know, again, there was no creativity from us, so all they had to do was stay organised, and you know, it was very easy for them to win the game. And then after that, it was a really, really poor, disappointing, demoralising 2-0 defeat down at Millwall, which, you know, hasn't been an easy ground for us to go to anyway, but it was the manner of the defeat. You know, I remember listening to it on the radio, and I think it was Adam Pope, and it may have been Brendan Ormsby commentating. I remember Brendan Ormsby just being so down on the game. You know, it was really, really that poor, and there was no passion shown from the team, and we looked like a team that was struggling, and that you know, the early season mood had definitely disappeared, and maybe a bit of negative play was creeping in, and that togetherness was just falling apart a little bit. You know, the no quality in the squad was really becoming very apparent, and you know, that started to sort of go into the fans a little bit. And it was just more inconsistency after that, really. You know, the following month it was a 2-1 win at home to Bournemouth, which again, it wasn't a great performance. I remember the match very clearly. Bournemouth came and did really, really well, but we just ground out that 2-1 result. But then, you know, that then goes on to another poor performance at Derby where we lose 3-1. And again, I believe it was maybe Brendan Ormsby that was commentating then, and you know, it was just very disappointing to see how that start of the season had turned so much in what seemed to be a short space of time. and you know, that positivity of thinking, you know, maybe this is our season, was sort of quickly disappearing, and thinking, no, it's going to be one of those inconsistent seasons again. Because then, you know, that poor performance went on to a 4-0 win at home to Birmingham, which was on telly, which again gets everyone's hopes up. And I think that was one of the problems, the fact that we were being so inconsistent. It was, you know, one week everyone was down, then the next week there was a little bit of hope from the team and the way we were playing, so fans were feeling better again. And it was, I think everyone, you know, I include myself in that, you know, football fans are very fickle, and Leeds United fans are some of the worst for that. But I think really we needed all to just step back and look at that squad and just realise that it really wasn't good enough. And that, you know, a fighting spirit wasn't going to get us through that season, especially when that fighting spirit started to, you know, to dwindle and disappear a bit, which, you know, is obviously going to happen if teams aren't being consistent. And then, you know, like I say, that led afterwards of that game, you know, doing so well against Birmingham in front of the Sky cameras and everything. You know, we go and lose 3-2 away at Huddersfield after, you know, going 1-0 up very early on through Matt Smith, who incidentally at that time was really starting to show some progress. You know, he'd had a difficult start to the season, which was expected of the lad. You know, he was coming up from League One, and like I say, only recently before that he'd been a non-league player, so it was a big step up for him. And I think he was only 20 years old or something at the time, 21 maybe. So, you know, it was a big step up, playing in front of bigger crowds. You know, I'd only been used to maybe 4,000 or 5,000 at Oldham. You know, he was going to play in front of 23, 24, 25,000 every week, big away support. So there was a lot of pressure on him, and you could see that early on. You know, he seemed a little bit nervous. His first touches weren't very good. He wasn't particularly winning much in the air. But, you know, he got 2 goals against Birmingham. He got that goal against Huddersfield, and you could see that confidence starting to come back into him, and the crowd was starting to warm to him a little bit more and get behind him. So that was looking good. But like I say, ultimately, you know, losing 3-2 away to Huddersfield at that time was really not good, and just capped off a very inconsistent month really of October. And, you know, we didn't really know what was going on. And also around that time, there was talk off the field. You know, GFH were talking about possible takeovers happening before the January transfer window, and there were talk of various consortiums. One being Lucas Radaby. He was meant to be fronting one. You know, he was at the Birmingham game and he was on the pitch and everything. And it was soon after that it all came out that, you know, he wanted to be involved in something and in taking Leeds United forward. I can't quite remember what name the consortium came under, but then that seemed to disappear a little bit. And then it was a consortium including David Haig and Andrew Flowers that was looking the most likely to take over sort of around the December time, and it was kind of promised to us that, you know, money was going to be injected into the club and everything, and it was going to be a more stable future. So that started to lift people's hopes a little bit. And once again, you know, GFH were doing things around the club, you know, like giving back the season ticket money back to fans before games. You know, around Christmas time they were giving out presents to fans, and it was just those little things that, you know, obviously for some people they didn't see past that and they could see what was going on behind the scenes. You know, but really the majority were quite pleased by that, and were saying, you know, it's things that Bates never did. And, you know, it was keeping the younger generation sort of interested, and keeping people happy. And obviously, you know, the promise of investment and this takeover, you know, lifted people's spirits again. And, you know, November got off to a really good start. We got a 2-0 victory at home to Yeovil. Again, McCormack, I think he scored 2 that day. So, you know, he was on top form. Then we went on to my favourite moment of this season by far, and probably one of my favourite ever away days, which was the 4-2 win at Charlton. it was one of those days where you thought everything was going to go wrong. You know, it's obviously a long journey down there. The weather hadn't seemed too bad, sort of on the way down, but when we got into Charlton, you know, it was a real sort of downpour. Got to the ground early, waiting around outside, and then the rumours and the murmurs started coming through that the game might have to be postponed. You know, after a long trip and an early morning set off for and everything, that's the last thing you want to hear. So there was the on-off thing, the kick-off, you know, got delayed and everything, and people didn't know what was happening. But anyway, you know, it ended up going ahead, and again another packed out away allocation, creating a fantastic noise, and just one-man show from McCormack. You know, it was a game with very little skill on show and no quality because of the weather conditions. But you know, for entertainment-wise and the way the game went, it was just fantastic. And the way McCormack finished it all off with that free kick, it was just one of those special away days. And like I say, probably my most favourite away day whilst following Leeds United. And it was just really, really fantastic. And like I say, a good start to November. Went on to beat Middlesbrough 2-1 at Ellen Road. Again, another better performance. And it seemed like the inconsistencies of the previous month and everything was maybe just disappearing. A 2-1 victory that has seen us go 3 matches on a 3-match winning streak, which is always nice to see, and see us back in the playoffs, which you know, is always good to see as well, really. So then we went into December, and for some reason with Leeds United, I don't know whether it's with other clubs as well, but for some reason with Leeds United, when it gets to December and around that Christmas period, things just always don't seem to go quite to plan. But again, you know, it wasn't a bad start. It was a very mixed sort of December. You know, we got wins against Wigan at home. That was quite a convincing 2-0 victory against a fairly poor Wigan side. 3-0 win away at Donny. Again, you know, it was another sort of comfortable victory for us. But you know, mixed in with that was a 3-3 draw at home to Watford, where we'd been 2-0 behind, got back to make it 3-2 to us, and then they got a last minute equaliser, and then drawing against Barnsley at home 0-0, and then sort of into the Christmas period on Boxing Day. No, was it Boxing Day against Blackpool? Drawing 1-1 there. And it was around the Barnsley game that things, I considered that to be the real turning point in the season. That 0-0 draw at home to Barnsley was, you know, we could have lost that game very easily. Barnsley played really well that day, and we just really didn't turn up, and things just weren't looking right. You know, in the table, I mean, we were in playoff contention. You know, even though things hadn't been perfect for us, you know, we'd got that you know, pretty decent points haul from that first half of the season, and you know, the championship being the championship where anyone can beat anyone. You know, there was no team sort of capitalising around that time. You know, Burnley was sort of going ahead, and there was Leicester and QPR obviously. But apart from that, it was very sort of equal between everyone else. So because of that, we were up there and looking into the playoffs. And for that reason, you know, everyone was still feeling quite high and looking, you know, looking towards a sort of big finish to the season. But like I say, around that Barnsley game, that's when things just started to turn. Well, both on the pitch and off the pitch. You know, there was a lot of unhappy fans around that time. You know, the Blackpool draw. I remember my dad sort of starting to get really sort of disillusioned with the team and the way we were playing as well. You know, even doubts started coming in. You know, fans against McDermott, which hadn't been heard or known sort of for the first part of the season. You know, everyone was singing his name every game, and were really happy with the things that he was saying and the way he was going about things. But things started to turn around that point, and you know, that we went on to lose against Notts Forest. Again, a very disappointing display. And then that that went into January, and I mean, shit really hit the fan in January. That Forest defeat started a 6-game streak without a win. We lost 5 in a row and drew just 1. But those losses included that embarrassment at Rochdale. So today, to lose 2-0 at a League 2 side, fair play, a good League 2 side. But to lose in that way and that fashion and that manner was pathetic, embarrassing. We were just, from start to finish, it was absolutely abysmal, a complete shambles really. Running out of adjectives really to describe it. The 2-0 defeat there, which was probably one of the worst feelings that I've had being at a Leeds United match. I've been through the relegations and been through poor results before and everything, but that 2-0 at Rochdale, and at the end of the game, with all the fans sort of staying behind and shouting that abuse and booing at McDermott and the team, it was just one of those really. It had been bubbling over for like I say, since just that mid-December point onwards. Things had just been bubbling over, and everything just went off in that game. And I mean, it was an embarrassment. It was an absolute embarrassment. Credit to Rochdale, they were fantastic and fully deserved their win that day, but we just did not turn up. We showed absolutely no passion whatsoever. Even just remembering it and talking about it, I can feel myself getting angry. But there was just nothing on that pitch that showed the fans that day that the players wanted to win that game and that they wanted to be there and in the next round of the FA Cup. There's no more words to describe it apart from embarrassing and pathetic and dire really. And you think something like that would send a rocket up the arse of the players and the manager, and you think that might just turn it back again and turn the season back the way that we were going. But then we went on to lose 6-0 at Sheffield Wednesday. I just think after yesterday and seeing how inept that performance was, and not just the team but McDermott as well, we've really got to question where we go from here, and it's really quite worrying. And I think it's at that point that we knew something was drastically wrong at the club and something really needed to change, but nobody really knew what, because although, like I said, people were turning against McDermott, there was still people were mainly aiming the sort of abuse and stuff at the players, because it was them that weren't showing the fight, it was them that weren't showing the determination, and during that January period it was clear to see that this takeover didn't seem to be going ahead with David Haig and Flowers and everything, and things were starting to get a bit dodgy there. There was a name of Massimo Cellino that got through into the mix that people didn't know about, people that hadn't really heard of him before. It came out that he owned Cagliari, but then it also came out that he had previous things about fraud and these court cases that sort of surrounded him. So clearly things, off the field were, seemed to be making a difference maybe to the way McDermott was going about things. The fact that he didn't have money to spend in the transfer window, that was shown by just the loan signings of Jimmy Kebe and Cameron Stewart. So the things that we'd all been promised we weren't getting. So there was a lot of actual sympathy for McDermott at that point, and like I say, all the anger seemed to be aimed at GFH and at the players. But in general, everyone was just fed up by that point, and we didn't really see how things were going to get better, in the short term at least. Because like I say, after that 2-0 performance, away at Rochdale, you think, well, if that doesn't kick them up the backside, nothing will. And then they go on to the 6-0 at Sheffield Wednesday. You think, well, is this what it's going to be like for the rest of the season? So then, obviously, this week the main talking point has obviously been the takeover, or what, even if there is going to be a takeover happening. And I think frustration is just really, after the performances of the past few weeks, followed on by this and the lack of transfer activity, you know. Well, Twitter for a start hasn't been a fun place to be recently. I've been spending less and less time on that really, because every day everyone's just getting more and more frustrated, just wanting some answers, wanting to know what the hell's going on at the club, what's going on behind the scenes, is anything going to happen, you know, is there any money there at all to spend in the transfer window? Because I think what's annoying is how it was kind of not promised as such, but it was said before January that hopefully this takeover from Sport Capital would be done in time for the January transfer window and there would be funds available. So I mean, we look at what's happened. I mean, Zaliukas' deal got extended and made sort of a more permanent thing. We obviously brought in Cameron Stewart and Jimmy Kebe on loan. I think they're both with a view to permanently signing, and that's it. I mean, I'm not criticising. I mean, it's good to see some new faces there, but you know, we were wishing for a little bit more than that. So anyway, that led to it came obvious that Haig and Flowers and that consortium and everything wasn't going to happen, and that it looked like Cellino was going to take over. And a lot of fans, myself included at that point, weren't very happy that this sort of unknown Italian who'd been at a very sort of low rate Italian club with possible criminal, you know, convictions and things against him were going to take over our club. When at that time we wanted stability, and me personally, I didn't see how we were going to get that with him. And you know, it wasn't made clear at that point how bad things were, you know, money wise at the club, and that we were in debt. You know, we kind of knew that there must have been some kind of problem, you know, the fact that GFH were wanting to offload the club, but I don't think we all realised quite how bad it was. So anyway, the day before, well, no, when it became clear that Cellino was clearly coming into the club and he was starting to travel over to England and everything, and it had been made quite clear that he wasn't wanting McDermott to be manager, and he'd brought Gianluca Festa over with him, the ex-Middlesbrough player, and that by all accounts he was wanting him to be manager. So he had him at I can't remember what the previous game was, but apparently he'd been at the game and wanted Festa to be on the bench with McDermott during the game, and apparently they'd been around the training ground and everything. So anyway, like I say, before the Huddersfield game, the day before, it was announced that Cellino had sacked McDermott. Now, at that point, everyone was really angry because, like I say, although there were people that were against McDermott, they didn't feel that the answer was to sack him at that point. And you know, this nobody who still wasn't technically in charge of our club had come in and sacked him. Now, quite rightly, there was a lot of angry fans, and a little protest took place outside Ellen Road, which included blockading Cellino's taxi inside Ellen Road and not letting him out. So at that point you thought, well, there's no way this is going to carry on and this is going to happen. You know, this is not a good start to someone's reign, you know, at the club. So anyway, it went on to the Saturday, and before the game, early on, there were rumours that David Haig and someone else at the club were trying to get McDermott back. Paul Hunt, I believe it was, were trying to get McDermott back because what had happened was illegal and that Cellino had no right to sack McDermott. So anyway, Nigel Gibbs was taking over the game at Huddersfield, and of course we went on to win 5-1, which was absolutely astonishing, and no one could believe it, and we'd played our best football in God knows how long. And of course it was announced during or just after the match that McDermott was back at the club, and everyone was happy again, but what a complete mess it was around that time. Well, from 8 o'clock on Friday night, through till, well, let's say 8 o'clock yesterday, 8 p.m. yesterday, was one of the craziest, most rollercoaster 24 hours that I've been through whilst being a Leeds United fan. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone will agree that I've never ever known anything like it at all. So everything was still up in the air. It was kind of taken that Cellino was going to take over the club, but it was just waiting for Football League approval. And he had like an outstanding court case and everything, so we knew it was going to drag on. But things started to calm down a little bit, and Cellino would come out saying that he would be happy to work with McDermott, and things like that were getting released in the press. There were quite a lot of contradictory statements, and that's continued. And apparently Cellino has said it himself that he contradicts himself all the time. But like, he'd come out and said that it wasn't him that had sacked him, even though it was, or it was his lawyer or something. But like I say, things started to calm down a little bit. We went on to win away at Yeovil. Again, not the greatest performance ever. It was difficult weather conditions that day, but I think it was just important to get the win and just try and get people a little bit happy around that time. So we'd had 2 decent wins there. We lost away at Brighton, which we deserved a bit more out of, but at the end of the day, it was still a loss. A very drab, boring 0-0 game at Middlesbrough. Both teams were just terrible that day, really, and it was a nothing game. But Cellino was at that game, and he was also at the game away at QPR where we drew 1-1. And again, there was a little bit of fighting spirit there in those. In the QPR game in particular, it was a tough place to go against promotion pushing side. So again, it was just that complete inconsistency. But overall, the football that was being played on the pitch was not good, and I mean, it's getting to the point now where fans that previously were angry that McDermott had been sacked by Cellino, quite a few were saying maybe it would have been a good idea to get rid of him. And I've got to be honest, during that point and just afterwards, I started to wonder and worry about McDermott. I'd liked him and backed him all season. But even I was starting to worry with some of his squad selections, some of his tactics, the insistence of continually playing Jimmy Kebe, who was, we could see by now that either he didn't want to be there, or he wasn't fit, or he just wasn't good enough anymore. He wasn't doing the job for the team, and there were other players that he could have chosen, but he kept sticking with Kebe, and it was that one for me that was really sort of sticking in the throat, really, and just made me think maybe he's losing, not losing the plot, but just losing some ideas in the squad anyway. But I mean, at that time, it wasn't easy for McDermott. He was having to put up with a lot off the pitch. The fact that this takeover wasn't going through, and it was still JFH in charge. So the real sort of debts came to fruition. We were seriously in debt. We had a big loan to pay off, and players were starting not to get paid, and that was a real problem and a real issue. And obviously, that was going to have an effect on the players and the staff. You know, it wasn't a real excuse for how the players were doing and performing, but it was clear to see that there was a lot for McDermott and for his staff to put up with off the field. You know, it's hard enough being a manager without having to put up with shit like that as well. So there was still that little bit of sympathy there, but you know, the next sort of run of results really sort of just turned the screw that little bit more. You know, 5-1 to Bolton, 4-2 to Reading, 2-1 to Burnley, and things really started getting nasty again. You know, the fans really started turning on McDermott and on the players. You know, during the games, you know, chants of "you're not fit to wear the shirt" and "what the fuck is going on," things like that. And you know, when that starts getting chatted at games, that you know things are really shit. And you know, I hadn't heard sort of that kind of vociferous abuse towards the players since you know, the relegation season from the Championship down to League One. You know, when things had got really poor before Dennis Wise and Poyet had come in. You know, that's the last time I'd really felt that sort of anger from the fans. So you could see that things weren't right. The majority of the time, you know, a club will have an embarrassing defeat in the season. You know, losing 4-5-0, maybe away from home or something, or having a heavy defeat at home. But to lose 5-1 at home to a side who have been struggling, you know, down towards the relegation zone this season, to lose 5-1, but also the manner in the way that it happened. You know, to go down without any kind of fight. It sounds like the entire team, you know, let themselves down, let the fans down. But everyone today, you know, McDermott, the staff, the players, everyone today let this club down and let the fans down. And you know, that run of results was just so depressing. I mean, it was 11 games with just one win, and that win was against Millwall, who, you know, at the time were fighting relegation. So, you know, it still wasn't a great performance either. You know, it was it's 2-1, sorry, not 2-0. You know, 2-1 against Millwall, and it maybe should have been a draw. You know, according to quite a lot of people that day. You know, Millwall did enough to get a draw out of that game. So, you know, that was nothing to write home about. So, you know, 11 games with just one win, conceding 24 goals and just scoring 9. I mean, that was relegation form. I mean, if we hadn't had that decent start to the season, you know, we were in real trouble. So just to make matters worse, during that period as well, Cellino was rejected from the Football League. So what a fantastic start to this week. I mean, it couldn't have been any better for a Leeds fan, really, could it? First of all, early on, we hear that Connor Wickham gets recalled from Sunderland. And then we get the news that Cellino has been blocked by the Football League to take us over, and all that was before 11 o'clock, I think, this morning. So it was you know, it was a cracking start, really good start to the week, and no one was really surprised because we knew what the Football League was like. You know, we know what they're like against us, and we knew that this court case against Cellino about this, you know, paying tax for this yacht or whatever it was, you know, we knew, even though it wasn't a major problem and that they've clearly let other owners take over clubs when they've done worse or had more things against them, we knew that they were probably going to reject it. And so it wasn't a surprise, but it just really added to the problems. And it was around that time that, you know, the players weren't getting paid and everything. And there was a real worry that, you know, maybe relegation was going to be a real issue. And also just after that, when, you know, it was said that Cellino was appealing this process, there was a call from an amateur radio station who had already done a call to Ken Bates. Ended up calling him scum and having a go at him, which was quite an amusing phone call. But then the next night he called up Massimo Cellino and just had he had a conversation. He rung up Cellino and Cellino spoke to him for about 25 minutes. But I mean, the amount of things that he was coming out with, I mean, just swearing all the time, having a go at McDermott, having a go at David Haig and GFH, and saying how he would want to take the club forward, saying what he would do, and that in a way just kind of, it started to change my views on him. I still wasn't, and still at this moment now, I wouldn't say I'm 100% behind him. There's still that niggling doubt about him that I can't seem to get rid of. But it was at that time that things started to just change a bit on how I was feeling about him, because he was starting to say all the right things, and he was saying that it's not about throwing money at the club, it's about spending the right amount of money in the right way, which we know that so well as Leeds fans. In the past, money has just been thrown at problems, and it's left us in tons of debt, and it's left us going down to League One with tons and tons of problems. So to hear that from a prospective owner was really satisfying to hear, and just the way he was talking about the players and just certain things he was saying really got a lot of people on board. We can go onto the rights and wrongs of the phone call and some of the things that he said that maybe he shouldn't have done, etc., etc. That really showed that we kind of, even if people didn't want him at the club, we definitely needed him, because like I say, if he hadn't have come in at that point, or we hadn't have been taken over, then we would be in serious trouble. Administration was a possibility, so it was a case of just needed him rather than wanting him. But it got announced at the Wigan game where we lost 1-0, that the appeal had actually been successful, and I don't think any of us could believe it, because the way it had been sort of rumoured and reported just before the game had started, it was as if the Football League were ready to say that it had been rejected. So yeah, to come out of that game, having lost 1-0, it was a brilliant away day that day at Wigan. But ultimately it was another loss and people were a bit down. But then to hear that Chileno had been successful, it was all worth it. And people were starting to look up again and just thinking, let's just, this season's a write-off. Let's just secure, our championship status, not get relegated, and just look to the summer, and hopefully massive changes, would occur. And that's kind of what it's been like for the past, the last few games. For the last 5 games, we won 3 of them, which was positive and was good to see, and just seeing a little bit more fighting spirit in the squad, which had been disappearing. So it was clear to see that sort of weight had been lifted from the squad and from McDermott and the staff and everything. Clearly things had calmed down off the field, which was obviously going to help things on the field. But then there was a bad loss against Notts Forest within that, which just kind of showed again, because people, like I say, football fans are very fickle, and we'd had those few wins and people thinking, oh, maybe this squad isn't too bad. But the game against Forest just showed that we were still a very poor team. There were still questions over McDermott and his tactics, and it just brought everyone back down to earth again. So we ended up finishing the season in 15th on 57 points with a -8 goal difference. Like I say, it's an exciting league, the Championship, because it showed that the last day, the last minute, Brighton getting promotion and Doncaster getting relegated. From that side of things, it's a good league because it's an exciting league, but it's also a poor league because anyone can beat anyone, and it doesn't take a long run of results for someone to either get up into the playoffs and towards promotion, and it doesn't take many defeats to drop down that league. To finish in 15th with 57 points after how things had gone, I suppose it could have been a lot worse. We had a positive-ish end to the season, and now it really is just looking forward to a summer under a new and exciting owner. we know it's not going to be dull. That's been said, at the end of season awards the other night. How many club owners do you see playing guitar on stage with the Pigeon Detectives, doing guitar solos and everything? Sharing a laugh and a joke with fans, going to pubs and drinking with the fans and socialising with them. It really is going to be interesting. How it's going to go, it's impossible to say. It really is. But for some reason, again, it's kind of similar to how things felt last season, even though it's been such a shite season overall, and it's just been so demoralising at times. There's just something that, I don't know, just screams to me that this summer is going to be exciting and that something's going to happen next season, and it's going to be something good. I think things have been so bad recently, and this is a change that we needed. Someone who isn't afraid to make the changes, from the top. Someone who does have the money, so hopefully we can be financially stable at least. And just ring the changes around the club. Whether McDermott stays or goes, to be honest, I'm in a stage now where I'm not fussed either way. I think, although it would be nice to see him given a chance, and see what it's like with him. It could be maybe a bit of a risk. Like a lot of people are saying, they don't want him. They don't trust him to spend money on players. But I would honestly like to see him, with a decent amount of money and backed financially in the transfer window to bring the players in that he really wants. Maybe Cellino will push him towards some Italian players. But just a different squad. We need such a different squad. We need more creativity there. Work around your McCormacks, your Smiths, your Murphys, your Jason Pearce. You've got a core squad there. Possibly bringing in another keeper. We're unsure about what's going to happen with Kenny. It seems like there might have been some kind of falling out between him and McDermott. So get a solid goalkeeper in there. But you've got a decent centre back there in Jason Pearce. Tom Lees I'm not too sure about, to be honest. But you've got Pearce there, you've got Murphy and Mowat, from that central midfield position. You've got Matt Smith and McCormack already up front. So build a squad around that. For me personally, I would maybe keep Warnock as well. I think he's a decent left back to have in the squad. We've got Byram as well, who hopefully after a full pre-season and no injury, he can make more of an impact next season, and have more of the year that he had the previous year, because you can see he's clearly not been himself this season. And like I say, you just get some pace on the wings, some decent wingers in there, some more battling midfielders and a stronger defence. It hopefully shouldn't take too much. But that's my views on it. That's who I'd like to sort of personally see stay at the club anyway. Like I say, unsure about McDermott. I'd take him or leave him. It's just if he was to go, I'm not sure who I'd want in charge. That's the only thing that I'm thinking ahead to. I'm not 100% sure who I'd have in. So, but he's meant to be meeting Cellino soon. Whether it gets to that stage or whether Cellino will get rid of him before that, who knows? And we should be learning, which players will be staying and going over the next week or so. So, like I say, I'm actually looking forward, to the summer. This morning I bought my season ticket. It's been 3 years since I gave up my season ticket after finishing university. It's been an odd 3 years, not sort of going to every single match. But this season, just picking the odd match, going to a lot more away games, which I absolutely love, and hopefully get to even more next season. I got the big 5-0 up. I've been to 50 grounds with Leeds United now, so hopefully get to a few more new ones next season. It'll be interesting going to the likes of Fulham and Cardiff. That'll be some new experiences for me. And likewise coming up, Brentford might be a new one. Well, it will be a new one. What am I saying? So I'm looking forward to that. Like I say, it's been fun being in the South Stand and with the SS5 lot and just being involved in that a little bit throughout the season. It's been fantastic to see how much that has grown. So I've got my season ticket in there for next season, and hopefully that will grow and the whole South Stand should be rocking next season, and we can get a proper decent atmosphere back at Ellen Road for the first time in ages. Hopefully get the Cop back involved again, because that seemed to have died a death this year, which was really disappointing to see. But to get a full rocking South Stand and the same at the Cop, at both ends of the stadium would just be fantastic next season. But you need a decent team on the pitch, and you need something to shout about and something to cheer about. You need that for that to happen properly. So that was Leeds United season 2013-2014. Really, really disappointing, wasn't it? Plenty more downs than ups, but here's to next season, and hopefully, this time next year I can be maybe talking about possible playoffs, or at least being in and around the promotion area, and just overall having a more positive season, and no stupid off the field matters to talk about. So obviously I want to know your views, guys. That's kind of the end of season video now. So I want all your views. What's been your highlights of the season? What were the particular lowlights? What players have you been impressed with? Your favourite goals, your favourite experiences, away days, home games, and whatnot. And obviously, let me know your thoughts going ahead, looking to next season. What you think is going to happen this summer? I know a few of you have commented in videos before about players that you want to keep and everything. I think everyone's roughly sort of sticking with that same core sort of element in the squad, but obviously everyone has their own different views. Would you keep McDermott or not? Again, we've kind of been through that before, but it's just all sort of looking forward to next season now. So I just want to finish by saying I'm planning on doing a Q&A session probably within the next couple of weeks, because obviously the Leeds United videos will now just slow down a little bit. I'll only be doing vlogs when something major happens off the pitch, when transfers start happening, if McDermott was to go or something like that. So obviously they're going to be few far between, so I'm going to try and keep things fresh, doing different videos and things, but I thought I'd probably kick it off by doing a Q&A session. So that's on, I'm guessing majority of people will be asking, Leeds United questions. Ask me about the season that's just been. Ask me, general things about Leeds United. But don't just keep it limited to Leeds. Just ask me anything. It's a proper, ask me anything kind of question and answer session. I did one of them last season, and it was that was fun to do. But I think I only had about 70 subscribers at that point, so I'm coming up to 300 subscribers now, so hopefully a few more of you will have some more questions. So start sending them to me at Twitter at ChrisJonesLUFC, and start putting them in the comments below, and I'll keep mentioning it in the coming weeks. So ask me loads of questions. You're not limited to just one. You're not limited to just Leeds United questions. If you want to ask me anything about gaming and the gaming side of the channel that I do, or just anything in general, what's my favourite lager or something, I don't know. So like I say, I'm probably going to do that in maybe a fortnight's time, so you've got 2 weeks to get your questions into me, guys. And I also just want to finish out by giving a shout out to Jonathan, who runs a channel, Real Talk Sports, on YouTube. He was previously ADHD Sports, but he finished that channel for various reasons, and he's started this new one. He's a big Leeds United fan like I am, and he does a lot of videos, sort of live updates of him watching games and giving his views on. He does a lot of boxing. He likes NFL, and like I say, he likes his football as well. So go give him a watch and go subscribe to him, guys, because he's a really great guy. Been going through a bit of a tough time recently. So go make his day. Go give him a subscribe and give him a watch, because it's well worth it. And like I say, he's a really nice guy. So like I say, that's the end, guys, of this 2013-2014 season. It's been fun. thank you very much for everything throughout the season, and for watching and subscribing and everything. Like I say, it's not going to end there. The videos are going to keep coming, so hopefully you can keep subscribing and sharing my videos and liking them. And yeah, just keep on watching, guys. So thank you for everything, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.